Kendrick Perkins and Luka Doncic had a huge fight during the All-Star weekend, and I'm telling you, the fallout is way uglier than anyone is reporting. From what I'm hearing, Perk tried to press Luka in the hallway. It got heated fast, and security had to step in before it turned into something way worse, and the crazy part is that this didn't come out of nowhere. So, today, I'll be giving you all the details on how Perk has been taking shots at Luka for a minute now, from calling him fat and untrained to saying Cade Cunningham is a better player. But here's what nobody's really talking about, Luka responded. And the way he responded? Yeah, that's where things start getting messy, because now other players are getting pulled into it. And if this keeps escalating, it's going to expose way more than just one beef. Have you ever seen someone try so hard to stay relevant that it actually becomes painful to watch? That's Kendrick Perkins in 2026. Look, we all know Perk's whole analyst career is built on having the loudest, most controversial takes possible just to keep his seat at the ESPN table. But what happened at the All-Star weekend in LA was on a whole different level of unhinged. This was a literal ambush that almost ended in a lawsuit. So, get this, it's All-Star weekend, the one time of year these guys are supposed to be able to breathe and enjoy time with friends from other teams. But for some reason, Perk started acting like an uninvited guest who's desperate to prove he's still one of the guys. Witnesses say he was lingering near the players' lounge, a place he definitely wasn't supposed to be, just waiting for a target. And of course, he picked the biggest target in the building, Luka Doncic. Now, Luka is usually the king of not giving a damn. He'll smile at you while he's dropping 40 and 15, but Perk has been chirping about Luka's weight and his theatrics for years. And apparently, he thought it would be a good idea to say it directly to Luka's face. As Luka was headed toward the lounge, Perk literally stepped into his path. No hello, no nice to see you, just straight up disrespect. According to people who were standing right there, Perk started barking, calling Luka fat and untrained, right there in the hallway. He told him he needed to stop the theatrics and quit acting like a prima donna every time a whistle didn't go his way. Imagine being Luka. You're a global superstar, a top 3 player on the planet, and you have this retired role player who hasn't seen a gym since 2015 calling you out in front of your peers. Luka's reaction at first was that classic, cold, dismissive smirk. He tried to just walk around him like Perk was a piece of furniture. But Perk wouldn't let it go. He kept doubling down and getting louder, basically auditioning for his next first take segment in real time. That's when Luka stopped, turned back, and gripped Perk by his suit. The energy in that hallway went from 0 to 100 instantly. You're looking at 2 massive dudes, and for a second, everyone thought it was going to blow up in the craziest way possible, at least until security came in. The most embarrassing part of the whole thing was that Perk was reportedly acting like he wanted the smoke. But once security got involved, he went right back to his phone. But if you thought that ambush was just a heat-of-the-moment thing, you haven't been paying attention to the script Perk is running, because he didn't just walk away from that confrontation and cool off. He went straight to the nearest mic to finish what he started. We're talking about the February 20th, 2026 episode of the Road Trippin' podcast. Perk sat there, looked dead into the camera, and with a straight face, said this.
And guess who's right there next after them? It's Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham has just leapfrogged Luka Doncic for his top 5 players in the NBA in my eyes.
Now, let's be for real for a second. Cade is having a monster year in Detroit. The Pistons are sitting at 41-13, and Cade is playing that winning basketball that old school guys crave. And yeah, we have to admit, in recent times, there have been nights where Luka makes it hard for his own fans. We've seen the ball hogging where he burns 22 seconds of the shot clock just to throw a grenade to a teammate. We've seen him out there arguing with the referee while the other team is already dunking on the other end. And let's be real, the beer-sippin' Luka memes hit home because the man isn't exactly sporting a six-pack right now. But even with all that, are we really going to act like Cade Cunningham is in the same atmosphere as Luka Doncic? Perk's logic is that Cade plays both sides of the ball, which is the classic, I have no stats to back this up defense. It's like saying a guy who can cook a decent steak is better than a Michelin star chef because the chef doesn't like washing the dishes. Well, Perk, here is the resume, in case you forgot. We are talking about Luka Doncic, 5-time All-NBA first team, a Western Conference Finals MVP, and a guy who constantly averages 30-plus in the playoffs like it's a light cardio session. Luka has 40-point playoff games like they're nothing. He's got historic usage metrics that shouldn't even be possible for a human being. Meanwhile, Cade's entire playoff footprint is a 2-4 series exit in 2025, where he shot 42% from the field and averaged over 5 turnovers a game. He's a rising talent, 100%, and what he's doing for Detroit is amazing, but he's still building the foundation. But Luka is already living in the penthouse. When Perk says Cade is right there next to SGA, Giannis, and Jokic, he's intentionally trying to push Luka out of the elite circle. He's using Cade's team success, which, let's be real, owes a lot to Detroit's depth and Bickerstaff's coaching, to try to prove that Luka's individual brilliance is somehow a negative. And here's the not-so-shocking part. Perk knew exactly what he was doing by dropping this on February 20th. He waited until Luka's first game after the injury to launch this, knowing it would overshadow everything else. He didn't just compare their stats. He tried to compare their spirit, saying Cade has the Kobe Bryant hard hat mentality, while implying Luka is just a showman. Even a toddler can see it's a calculated hit job. But you have to ask yourself, why now? Why is Perk so desperate to bury Luka now? Well, that was the biggest mistake he could have made, because if Perk thought he could just go on a podcast and delete Luka's legacy without a response, he clearly forgot who he was dealing with. Imagine getting cornered in a hallway by a dude who hasn't seen the inside of a gym since the Obama administration, just for him to tell you that you're untrained. That's the level of pure comedy we're dealing with in the NBA. And I won't lie, I expected Luka to just brush it off because he usually plays the happy-go-lucky Euro kid. But the 2026 version of Luka is different. He's done being the nice guy. News just got leaked from the inner circle of the Lakers camp, and the sources said Luka's literal response to Perk's comments was, and these were his exact words, "Who is this meat writer trying to come at me? He had a mediocre career and should not criticize me." Ouch. But honestly, he wasn't wrong. Calling Perk a meat writer is the most accurate thing I've heard all year. It's officially the term of the summer because it perfectly describes what's wrong with NBA media right now. We aren't watching actual analysis anymore. We're watching a desperate content strategy. The whole ecosystem is cooked, and there is this new pattern of analysts and reporters just saying anything to rile the audience up and increase their engagement. These days, if you aren't saying something absolutely unhinged, you aren't getting clicks, so Perk knows exactly what he's doing. He realized a long time ago that being the Luka hater is his only way to stay relevant. Every time he goes on TV and calls out the man leading the league in scoring, his Twitter goes crazy. The clips get millions of views on TikTok and he keeps his paycheck. He's not a basketball legend. He's a con man who has traded his soul for engagement. But that's not even the part that gets to me the most. See, when you actually pull up the receipts and look at the numbers, Luka calling him mediocre is honestly being too nice. It's insane that we even have to compare these two. Luka Doncic was the EuroLeague MVP at 18. 18. Most of us were still trying to figure out how to pass freshman comp, and he was already the best player in the second best league on earth. He was Rookie of the Year, he's an offensive engine that doesn't stop, and right now, he's leading the league in scoring at over 30 points per game. We're talking about career averages of nearly 29 points, 9 boards, and 8 assists. He's got 60-point triple-doubles on his resume and more 40-point playoff games than most Hall of Famers. Let's not forget, he's a first-team All-NBA lock every single year. Perk was never the guy. He was never even the third guy. He never made an All-Star team, never got an MVP vote, and for a guy who calls himself an enforcer, he never even sniffed an all-defensive team. He was a role player who spent more time hacking people than actually playing defense. He was never the focal point of anything, yet he's got the nerve to sit in an expensive suit every day lecturing a guy who's currently breaking the sport of basketball. The funniest part is Perk tells Luka to stop the theatrics, while his entire post-playing career is just one long, loud, annoying theatrical performance for the cameras. This guy is the only guy in league history whose most famous highlight is him tripping over his own feet and airballing a layup. I mean, check this out.
Don't do it like that, Perk. Yeah. Throw it at the rim.
Take a look at the fine pass. Well,
This is a reminder that while Perk is out here chasing viral clips, Luka is out here chasing MJ and Kobe. It's impossible to take advice on winning from a guy who was the weak link on every good team he played for. In OKC, the team was literally better the second he sat on the bench. In the 2012 finals, the Heat treated him like a traffic cone. By the time he got to Cleveland in 2015, he was basically a mascot who got a free front row seat to watch LeBron work. Word on the street is that the National Basketball Players Association is actually looking into his credentials now because his analysis has turned into straight-up personal harassment. There's a line between saying someone had a bad game and cornering them in a hallway to call them fat. Perk is realizing that in 2026, the players aren't scared of the media anymore. They have the power, and they aren't going to let a mediocre former role player tell them who they are. But this isn't just one bad take or a single podcast clip. Kendrick Perkins hasn't just been criticizing Luka. He's been running a targeted multi-year campaign to see how much dirt he can throw on a generational superstar's name before it sticks. This is a pattern of behavior that goes way back, and when you look at the timeline, it's clear Perk isn't interested in the game. He just wants to bring Luka down by all means. Let's go back to May, last year, when the Lakers had just been bounced, and instead of talking about the trash roster or the coaching, Perk hops on a podcast with his serious analyst face and drops the most delusional take of the decade.
Luka Doncic is the worst defensive star that we've seen in the modern era of basketball. Period.
Like, are we for real right now? So Luka is worse than 2015 James Harden? Worse than Trae Young or Jordan Poole? That take was so detached from reality that even his co-hosts looked physically uncomfortable. Perk didn't care about the back injury Luka was dragging through that series or the fact that he was literally carrying the highest usage rate in the league. Dude just wanted the headline. Then it gets personal, and that's where it gets weird. Before Luka's 2025 transformation, when he showed up to camp looking all fit and lean, Perk was basically the president of the beer-sippin' Luka fan club. He spent 2 whole years calling the man chubby, out of shape, and unserious.
And Luka Doncic is out of shape, right? And here's the thing. We can fix our face, you can moan, we can groan, but I'm going to give you the real. The real is this. Luka Doncic is so horrible defensively. Since he's debuted with the Los Angeles Lakers, he is #1 in the league in blow-bys.
Which is ironic because, Kendrick, we all watched your games and you weren't exactly a track star. You were a 6'10" inches statue who looked winded just walking from the bench to the scorer's table. Perk's favorite move, though, is the body language talk. He spent countless segments telling Luka to fix his body language and be a leader, like he's some kind of guru himself. It's hilarious hearing leadership advice from a guy whose biggest contribution to a locker room was allegedly being the snitch who leaked internal drama to keep his media contacts fresh. Perk acts like this grizzled, tough guy enforcer on TV, but when you look at the actual resume, most of the time, he was just a liability. What's even wilder is how the rest of the media is starting to distance themselves from him. You see it on the sets, the silent eye rolls from the real analysts when Perk starts barking about Luka's spirit. Now, it's one thing if it were just the altercation and the podcast back and forth, but while all of this was going on, I personally put on my investigator hat and started to trace things back, and I found out that Perk isn't just coming for Luka because of his conditioning or his body language. If you take a look at the history of Perk's targets, there's a very specific pattern of players he chooses to go after. And once you hear who these players are, everything starts to make a lot more sense. I cannot be the only one who noticed how the energy shifted the second Luka touched down in Los Angeles. Since he put on that purple and gold, Perk has been on a different level of aggression. It's not even loud analysis anymore. It's almost like a desperate attempt to gatekeep the throne. You have to ask yourself, is he actually analyzing, or is he just a glorified bodyguard trying to protect LeBron's legacy by downplaying the new king of the Lakers? The hypocrisy is what really makes your head spin, though. Perk will spend 20 minutes screaming that Luka is a whiner who spends more time begging for whistles than playing defense. But then he'll turn around and call Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a pioneer. Like, do we not have the internet? This season, Shai is averaging 12.2 free throw attempts per game, while Luka is averaging 11.6. Shai is literally shooting more free throws than Luka, yet SGA is skilled while Luka is manipulating the game. This brings me to the conclusion that Perk is essentially hired to keep the American star at the top of the food chain, no matter what the stats say. And before you say anything, yeah, I know SGA was not raised in the US, he was raised in Canada, and he moved to the US in 2015. But we all know SGA is way closer to becoming the model for American basketball than Luka ever will. It makes perfect sense when you look at Perk's recent rants about how American players are losing their spots to Europeans.
They got some young fellas in Europe that's ready to come and take a motherfucking lunch money. So again, don't put your kid in that position.
He went on a podcast run recently, basically sounding the alarm like it was an alien invasion. This proves his bias isn't rooted in basketball truth. It's rooted in xenophobia. He's been doing this for years, and the pattern is getting impossible to ignore. Remember when he tried to say the MVP race was racially biased just to keep Nikola Jokic from winning a third trophy? He did it to Jokic, he did it to Embiid when he claimed he was ducking smoke, and now he's doing the exact same thing to Luka. Perk is genuinely terrified of a league dominated by guys who didn't grow up in the AAU system he defends. To him, if you didn't play in the summer circuits in Vegas or go through the American enforcer grinder, your greatness is somehow soft or fake. But as much as he tries to frame this as protecting the game, the players themselves are starting to see right through the act and get the full picture of how untrustworthy he is. This isn't even me just being a hater. Actual NBA players have been flagging this man as a snake for years. If you want to see how fast this dude flips the script, just look at the summer of 2025. When Luka first touched down in Los Angeles and those skinny Luka photos started hitting the timeline, Perk was basically the grand marshal of the parade. He was on NBA Today every afternoon talking about how Luka finally took accountability and showed the commitment of a great player. He even went out on a limb and picked Luka as his early 2026 MVP.
And when you see Luka setting the bar, looking in shape, the league is in trouble. For one, the Lakers are a legit title contender. For two, Luka is my early favorite to win the MVP.
But the second the Lakers hit a defensive slump in December 2025, he switched real fast. Perk didn't just criticize the team. He turned on Luka like he'd never even liked the guy. He went from calling him the MVP frontrunner to mocking his effort, saying the Lakers couldn't stop cars at a crosswalk in a school zone. He flipped the entire narrative the second it became more profitable for his ratings to be a hater than a fan. That's the Perk special. Zero loyalty to the truth, and even less to his supposed brothers. Go ask Serge Ibaka. Back in late 2022, Perk straight up accused Ibaka of lying about his age during their OKC days, implying he was way older than his birth certificate said.
Serge Ibaka, he say he 18, but you know, Africans be lying.
Again, I need you to note that Ibaka is African, not American. See what I mean when I say it's a pattern? But Ibaka didn't take it lying down. He started by exposing Perk for who he really is. He called him out for breaking the locker room code and revealed that Perk used to trash talk Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook behind their backs the second they had a bad game, all while acting like their best friend to their face. Ibaka's exact words were that Perk got his job by spreading lies about his former teammates. Think about that. This is a guy who would sell out his own championship teammates for a 30-second ESPN clip. If Perk is willing to backstab the guys he shared a locker room with for years, what do you think he's going to do to a guy like Luka? At the end of the day, Perk is the ultimate example of what's wrong with the media landscape in 2026. He's a meat rider for whoever is winning and a hater for whoever is an easy target. He's attacking Luka because Luka is everything he never was, a generational talent, a leader, and a guy who doesn't need to lie to be important. So next time you see Big Perk barking on your screen about body language or toughness, just remember the 16.7% shooting. Remember the airballed layup. And most importantly, remember that the players themselves don't even trust him to hold a secret, let alone a valid opinion.